Hello everyone, welcome to Boxing Day in UK, Australia, December 26th in the US. I don't think we really call it anything other than the day after Christmas, of course. Let's see, we've got a lot of people here, which is great. Good to see everyone. Yeah, Tony, hopefully that's a joke that Jay has switched back to AMD, and that's not true. But I could also see it being true. But good to see everyone. Thanks for joining, Tough Guy Harrison. Good to see you here, Pacify. And don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Let's see, Scott, Tony, who else we got? Cody. It's good to see you all. And yeah, we were just talking about, we've got a bit of a snowstorm heading up the northeast of the US. So where I live may get around 8 inches of snow, so that should be interesting. The good thing is I don't really have to go anywhere, so we'll be sledding tomorrow, which should be fun. Thanks for joining, Taras. It's great to see you, buddy. I know that he's a Skool member, so we've chatted in Skool, so great to see you here. All right, so today we got a lot of cool stuff to cover. I do have a bunch of giveaways. I'm giving away the last of the RAM kit, so we'll talk about that. Giving away a case as well, this MSI Pano case, and a surprise. So the surprise we'll do later. We'll do them all later in the live stream. I'm not sure how long we'll go for today, but we'll try and we won't go too long. But got a bunch of giveaways to do. We've given away in our Mega RAM giveaway 2 kits already. So this is the last of the 3 kits. This is a DDR5 6400 CL32 kit. Pretty cool, sweet kit, particularly for AMD. So we're going to do that, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. DDR4 versus DDR5. Basically, the big question that a lot of people are asking is DDR4 still viable in 2026, given the increase in RAM prices for DDR5? So my next video will be on that. It'll be focused on AMD, but I also answer the question for Intel too, and I'll show you a sneak peek at some of the data and some of the results in this live stream. I always like to do that. And then we're also going to look at the best PC software tools out there that I use personally and that we use within the broader Skool community, and also some hardware tools as well. I've advertised the new LTT Prismagic series transparent screwdrivers on the channel this week. I'm going to show you some of those today. But in addition to the software tools, also other hardware tools I use. For example, I use a very cool PSU tester that's not super expensive. There's one out there that's $1,000, which I wouldn't recommend spending on a PSU tester, even if you do it for a living like I do. The one that I have is $40 and it works fantastic. And it also has a native 12-volt high power connector that you can test. So anyway, I'll cover a bunch of my favorite hardware tools. One thing I added to this is that and I'm smiling because Hardware Unboxed now overclocks. After making a huge deal about how overclocking is pointless, they now do it. So we'll dig into that a little bit. And then I'll cover my predictions for CES 2026, which is fast approaching, coming up in, wow, like 2 weeks? Week and a half, something like that. So I'll be in Vegas to see everything that NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, Asus, you name it, has to offer. Should be interesting. The most frustrating thing about CES though is that you see really cool stuff and then it takes 6 months to come out sometimes. I think some of the announcements that they make, the products will be available much quicker than that. But sometimes Asus is renowned for this. They'll show something really cool, and then you won't be able to pick it up until the second half of 2026. So anyway, nearly in 2026. So that should be, that's interesting. 2026, we're nearly there. Crazy. All right, so just as a precursor to the giveaways, right? The RAM giveaway and the MSI giveaway are for Skool members only. I'm currently running a 7-day free trial. A bunch of Skool members are already here. So if you want to participate in that, you've got to join immediately. I'll check out the numbers, particularly for the RAM, just before I draw that. For the case, it was only those people that are interested. Unfortunately for the case, the shipping costs of the case are quite high. So it doesn't really make international shipping super practical. But if you want to do that, feel free. You're welcome to participate. And for the surprise giveaway, you just have to be a member participating in this live stream and be in chat. That's it. So that'll be towards the end, and I've got it next to me what I'm giving away. Actually, I got the RAM kit here too, which is pretty cool. So as I said, this is the kit. It's DDR5 6400 CL32. Now, I could have chosen to sell this and retire, but I decided to give it away. I've given away 2 kits already. So the 2 winners actually were from the UK, so I was able to package them together and send them across. And I know that Glenn received those just before Christmas, and he was forwarding it on to John. And so I think Glenn's got the 6400 CL36 kit, and then John got the 7200 CL38 kit. So congratulations again, guys, for winning those. And I'm also going to do more giveaways, particularly within the Skool community. I have a lot of components. And so when I come across components like the cases, where I realized when I started the channel, I thought I was going to be building a lot more PCs. And it turns out that content doesn't do exceptionally well. So I really only build PCs when it's something special now. I've got a bunch of cases that are just sitting there. And so some I want to keep because I do want to build in them. And some I'm happy to give away. And there's other things as well. I've given away CPUs, anything that pops up where I look at it and think, I'm not going to need that again on the channel. And then I've given away GPUs as well. So again, if you haven't joined, join Skool. Really cool. We have tuning and optimization guidance and tips. We have detailed memory profiles for different types of memory kits. You get early access to benchmarks, data like the memory guidance, and tools. I'm going to show you one of the tools that we have, which is our master software suite. That's there as well. Weekly live Q&A sessions, sometimes more often, depending on my availability. The Blackbird Army requested that we set up a Discord server, so we have that set up now for Skool members. Again, giveaways. And then also I'm running a limited 7-day free trial. So if you want to check it out, come in, check it out. And then, if it's not for you, you don't have to continue. And if it is, which I hope it is, then you join and be part of what I think is the best community online. And I know I say that and I'm biased. Speak to the people in there. If you get the 7-day free trial, speak to anyone in there and just ask them what they think. And I think that they'll tell you the same thing. It really is a phenomenal place. No judgment, really just helping each other. Ask any question. There's nothing that's too dumb or too this or too that, and it's good to question me, and if I make share an opinion or make an observation, challenge me. Like, it's a really cool place to be, and we have fun, and I think that's awesome. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that, man. Really do appreciate it. Let's see, just to tackle your question quickly. Do you think the rumors of the RTX 60 series and RDNA 5 release to mid to late 2027 or early 2028 due to RAM is accurate? Wow. I think I'm going to cover this later in the live stream in what I think the predictions will be at CES. I don't think you should expect the 60 series until 2027. I think that we're going to see the time between launches extend, and that's got nothing to do with RAM. That's simply because the investments required, like the billions of dollars investment required by Nvidia and others and AMD to produce a new generation of chip, are meaning that that it's going to take longer. They want to recoup those investment costs. and they want to do that over a longer period, and it's taking them longer to really take those leaps. And you kind of saw that a little bit going from the 40 series to the 50 series, where it was an improvement, but it wasn't potentially as big of an improvement as people were expecting. So I think Nvidia is going to go for the 60 series a big leap forward. That's my opinion, and I think it will take longer. So I could see late 2027 as being a potential launch window for them. It'd be awesome if AMD came in a little sooner, since they didn't have high end this time. But again, it's a big cost thing. I don't think that has anything to do with the shortage of RAM though. I do think that will impact the Super Series, and I'm going to talk about that later in the live stream. So hopefully that helps. So should you wait? Man, if you have a 5090, I would absolutely wait. I wouldn't wait to the 7090. That's going to be some time. But I think that the 6090, if you've got a 5090, I would wait and get a 6090. You're going to be living at the top with your 5090 for at least another year and a half. And even when the 6090 comes out, I mean, it's still going to be, my guess is, the second best card, like the 4090 is today. So you're set for a while. Kind of that's the good thing though about spending a little bit more on technology today, is that it should lock you in for a little longer, particularly on the GPU side. On the CPU side, maybe not as long, but on the GPU side for sure, right? So thank you for that. And I appreciate it from 406 mil. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And thanks for joining today as well. Okay, let's see. So, like I said, the 7-day free trial, I'm going to run it until the end of the year. So you've got some time. But if you want to participate in these, if you do join, please please tell me as chat as well. But I'll jump on there before I do the random number generator for the RAM giveaway as well. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's jump straight into this. So I think it's a really interesting question of whether DDR4 is a viable option. And so the easiest platform to look at this on is Raptor Lake, because it's the only CPU that supports both DDR4 and DDR5. So what that means is that you can kind of take out some of the variables. For AMD, you can't compare the same CPU with DDR4 and DDR5, at least not currently. I mean, I assume they could. I don't know if they could. It'd be interesting if they made an AM5 board that supported DDR4. That would be really cool. Anyway, I'm not suggesting they're doing that, believe me. But it's different for AMD, and I'll get to that because I am going to cover that in the video that's coming out next week. So for Intel, it's pretty straightforward. What I did in this video is I tested a 14900K on a Z690 chipset. So two different Z690 motherboards, same chipset, but one that supported DDR4 and one that supported DDR5. So it gave me a really good opportunity to kind of standardize the CPU. So you take out any kind of variability around CPU quality. It's exact same CPU, just in two different systems. And I tried to make sure that the BIOS setup was equivalent. Obviously, that's not, you're not going to get that perfect, but I tried my best to do that, right? And so these are the results that I got over 16 games. As you can see, there was an advantage to DDR5. That advantage was minimized as you became more GPU bound, which is interesting and is likely due to the fact that latency becomes more of an important factor when your system is GPU bound versus being heavily CPU bound at 1080p. So I don't think these results shock anyone. And by the way, I'm comparing a very fast DDR4 36, well, not very fast, a very tight timed 3600 kit versus a DDR5 7200 CL34 kit. I think they're pretty reasonable for those era chips, right? Or for the 14900K, I think that's pretty reasonable. So you could go up to a DDR4 4000 kit, you could go up to DDR5 8000, 8200, but I think this was a reasonable thing to compare. I also have this in there, which I think is interesting. There's a very good calculator that I should find for you and put in chat. That should be part of my tool set. That's interesting. The calculator There's lots of memory calculators out where you can calculate the RAM latency. However, I've only found one very good calculator, and I'm trying to RAM calculator. Here it is. I'm gonna put this into chat. So let me put it here. All right. So I put that into chat. That's the RAM calculator. It's a very, very good RAM calculator that helps you calculate, you know, the bandwidth and the first word latency. And you've got to read through the instructions to do it properly, because there is a difference. You have to dial in different settings like channel width and other parameters. My memory runs in 2 channels versus 4 channels if you're using DDR4 versus DDR5. But it's a very, very good calculator. It's the best one that I've found online. Anyway, this is a summary of some of the data to compare, because you get a lot of people that'll say, well, this kit is faster than this kit, and they don't know how to compare bandwidth and latency together, and this helps you, right? So you can see that a very tight timed, well, 14, 15, 15, 35 is pretty good. 3600 kit has a bandwidth of nearly 58 gigabits per second and a RAM latency of 7.8. An 8000 CL38 kit has double the bandwidth, or 7200 kit, I should say, has double the bandwidth, and its RAM latency is actually higher. So its RAM latency is closer to a CL16, 3600 CL16 kit. So that's interesting, and so you will get an advantage in gaming if you can bring down that latency, that first word latency and the RAM latency. If you can bring those down, you will get an advantage in gaming. And there's some applications where some games that are very bandwidth dependent. I think one of those is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And so in that application, your 1% lows will benefit from higher speed RAM more than potentially the latency. So anyway, I'll discuss that in the video as well. So what's fascinating is that when I did this, and I'm sure you're laughing at the prices here, when I did this in 2024, so in April of 2024, the 7200 DDR5 7200 kit was $210, and not so long ago they were very similarly priced, and the DDR4 kit was $170. When I looked today, this is what happened. And so the gaming value, the DDR4 kit was slightly ahead in average FPS of 8% and a little tiny bit ahead in 1% lows of 3.4%. So basically what I'm saying is that this performance advantage was knocked down because this performance advantage due to DDR5 RAM was knocked down due to the price of the RAM being higher. So now if you look and say, well, how would that compare today? And now this is DDR4 3600 CL16. I couldn't get the CL14, but you can take the CL16 kit most of the time and drop it to CL14, and I was able to do that with this kit. But that kit is $240. The DDR5 7200 CL34 kit is $490. So it went from the DDR4 kit went from having an 8% and 3% advantage to having a 78% and 71% advantage in terms of gaming value or efficiency. However, it's basically FPS per dollar. That is insane. So DDR4 is definitely still viable. In fact, it's become much more attractive because of the increase in pricing of DDR5, at least while it's still being manufactured and while it's still available. I think they're still manufacturing it, so it's not a big deal. I wonder why it says sign into chat. That's weird, because you can see my stuff. I don't know. All messages you send will appear publicly. Of course they will. I just sent one. That's weird. I'm curious. Sorry about that. Let me just see if I can make that go away for a second. So I'm curious if it has something to do with... I'm signed in here. Let's see. Live. Look at the control room. Looks good. I don't know. Let's see. Sign into chat. I don't even know how to click on that sign into chat. That's weird. Okay. All right, we won't worry about that. We'll move on. Okay, so that's Intel. the focus for the video is really on AMD, and that's a different beast. So what I did is I thought, for people on AM4, they really want they want the answer of, is it worth upgrading to AM5 now? Because I have to go buy DDR5 RAM. And so even though it's a platform upgrade and I can't keep the same CPU, it would be interesting to provide that information for anyone that's on AM4, because it's a weird time in terms of DDR5 pricing driving a lot of other things. So what I decided to do was not test the X3D chips. I've already tested those, and I'm going to show that in the video as well, just a summary of what my results are there. But the non-X3D chips scale much more heavily with RAM speed. And so the impact of RAM on the non-X3D chips is much higher. So I thought it would be interesting to compare two 8-core, 16-thread CPUs, so the Ryzen 7 5800X against the 9700X. And for the 5800X, I used a very good kit of DDR4 3600 CL14, and I compared that to a very good kit of DDR5 6000 CL26 for the 9700X. Both of those kits are in the sweet spot, and they're very tight timings, okay? So I think that was very fair. I also used two Hero motherboards. For the AM4, I used the Dark Hero, and for AM5, I used the Hero, the X870E Hero. And here's what I did a little differently. Instead of using the most powerful GPU that I could to try and push the load onto the CPUs as much as I could, I decided to use a 5070 Founders Edition. And the reason I did that is it's the most popular 50 series GPU on the Steam survey, the most recent one. And my thinking is that if you're on AM4, you likely haven't bought a 5090. You're likely on what I would call your last kind of GPU insert before you decide to upgrade to AM5. And so I thought this would give you a better indication of what to expect in terms of raw performance if you're using a card that's kind of relevant to the AM4 platform. So I decided to use a 5070 and just mix it up a little bit. I think it was interesting. What it basically means is that you're going to be more GPU bound in the benchmarks than you would if we were using a 5090, because that's really what it means, right? The reason we use a 5090 is we try to push all of the load onto the CPUs and compare the CPUs. In this instance, I'm trying to answer a slightly different question, which is is DDR4 still relevant in 2026? And the way to answer that is to say, if you're on AM4, I've already answered it for Intel, if you're on AM4, is the cost of upgrading really worth it? And so if you're on AM4, you probably have something like a 5070 or a 4070 Super or something like that, or the AMD equivalent, and you're asking yourself that question, should I upgrade? So that was the attempt here, right? The rest of the components are basically the same. These chips don't get super hot, so the cooler is somewhat irrelevant, although both of these coolers are very good. So that's what I did, and here's just two sneak peeks, right? First is Black Ops 7, and I think this is fascinating. When you're in a highly, what I would call, well, not what I would call, what it is, when you're in a highly CPU bound scenario, which is 1080p low or 1080p minimum in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, there is an advantage to the 9700X plus DDR5 6000 CL36. Now, of course, there's an IPC improvement due to the CPU, and that's going to account for a lot of that 36%, 1% low improvement, right? So that's going to account for a bunch of that. And then the rest of that is going to be accounted for with DDR5. So, but that's not the question, because you can't do one or the other. You have to do both. So this is a real result. So remember, 5070 GPU here. But in 1080p medium, you are heavily CPU bound. And so in that situation, there is a big advantage. However, as you move up and go to 1440p balance and then 4K Ultra, that advantage completely goes away. So much so that the 9700X plus DDR5 6000 CL26 RAM is slightly slower than your 5800X plus 3600 CL14 RAM. That was pretty fascinating to me. And what that really would indicate to me is that, again, when you're heavily GPU bound, the latency has a bigger impact than the speed, right? That's kind of what that would say. Now, again, there's a CPU element to this as well. But I found that really fascinating. And it wasn't just, if this was a one-off, I retested this, by the way, when I saw it, because it was interesting to me, but whatever. I retested it and I found it quite interesting. So it wasn't just this game. If you look at Cyberpunk 2077, it happened again. And so you had this huge advantage at 1080p low, but when you went up to 4K Ultra, and this is even with RT on, right? RT quality. When you went up to 4K Ultra, the 5800X Plus DDR4 3600 CL14 kit was faster. And this one wasn't just a tiny bit. I mean, it's not huge, but 3.5% is meaningful, right? It's not just a run-to-run variation. It's actually meaningful. So I found that fascinating. I think their overall results, when I show you the average in the video, I think you'll find that fascinating. These benchmarks should be up tomorrow within Skool. The video should be out next Friday. That's what I'm aiming for. And so what's next Friday? Actually, it'll be New Year's Day, which is pretty cool. So, by the way, I'm wearing merch from my store. I never wear the merch from my store. I do have a store. It's blackbirdpctech.store. And I hadn't until recently ordered one of these hats to check it out. It's actually pretty cool. So at the back, it has that logo, the Blackbird PC Tech logo, and at the front it has the standard channel logo. I also have the t-shirt on here as well. But yeah, I thought, man, I'm going to CES. I should buy some merch to bring with me to CES. So, and then I realized, why haven't I been wearing it on the channel? But whatever. So if you're interested, check it out. It's just standard stuff: t-shirts, hats, like coffee mug. I got one of those, and like a water bottle, that type of thing. So check it out if you're interested. Okay, hey Chris, thanks for joining the chat. We have a lot of 8 cuts tots. We have a lot of members in today, which I really appreciate it. Thanks for spending your day after Christmas celebration with me, and hopefully you all got great presents, PC tech related presents under the tree. I know some of you did, so that's pretty cool. All right, let's see. Pacify. That's your RJ from Skool. So I didn't connect the dots because your name as in YouTube is very different. So it's good to see you here, buddy. All right, let's see what else. All right, so I'm gonna move on, and I thought this would be a fun one to move on to, and then we'll do the tools, and then we'll do the giveaways. So I'm sure many of you have seen the fact that I covered this video that Hardware Unboxed did called this is my video, is CPU and GPU overclocking really worth it? And it was their live stream. So it wasn't on their main channel, it was on their podcast, their Hardware Unboxed podcast, where they talked about CPU tuning as grifters, and it was very interesting what they had to say. And they also took a shot at me, so because of that, I responded with the video. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. You'll get all the details. The reason I bring this up is that their video came out on October 17th, which isn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking about 2 months, right? And the video is called Battlefield 6 Intel Nerfing. You can see it there, blah, blah, blah. So that came out 2 months ago. In that, there are multiple claims, and you can check out my video if you want to see it all in detail, because I go through it in detail. But to save you having to go through it, there's 4 claims that are relevant to what I'm about to talk about. First one was, they claim overclocking is a waste of time. So I give you the timestamp there. So you don't have to believe me, trust me, just go there, look at that timestamp, and you'll see it. They claim negligible performance increases with overclocking and tuning. They state that it's a big nothing burger. I mean, Steve states this multiple times in the video, but that's one where he states it. And actually, Tim tells you not to bother, just buy better components, because that makes sense, right? I mean, just don't tune your system instead of buying a 5070, just buy a 5090, because everyone can do that. I mean, they get given that for free, but don't worry, just go out, work a few more hours and go buy a component. This is not a joke. They actually said that. I was a bit shocked when I saw it. But this was just a summary of their 4 big claims, right? Absolutely pointless to overclock. So imagine my surprise when a few days ago, they come out with this video, top tier AM5 gaming for less, and they test the 7500 X3D versus 9800 X3D and a bunch of other things. Okay, well, maybe I wasn't surprised at that, but I was surprised at this. They decided to overclock. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Not just that, the actual performance advantage that they got from overclocking, and this is just, I picked Horizon Zero Dawn, was 11% in both, by the way, they test at 1080p medium and 1080p ultra. For some unknown, bizarre reason, it makes absolutely no sense to test at those conditions because you're not heavily loading the CPU, particularly at 1080p ultra. You're loading the GPU in most games if you do that. Put that aside, right? I cover that in my video. Just from what they've done, they got 11% here. So, I mean, hold on, let's go back to here. Overclocking is a waste of time? Apparently not. Negligible performance increase, 11% is pretty decent. Big nothing burger. I mean, the burger looks pretty delicious to me. And just buy better components. Well, that's not a better component. 7500 X3D, I would argue, is a pretty low-end component. So what you're telling me is if you bought a 7500 X3D, you could go in and tune it to be very close to a 7800 X3D. What's ironic is I went and showed that you could tune a 9700X to be with so close to a 7800 X3D, and Steve claims it's not possible. Yet he goes and does this. So yeah, I mean, if you really want to look at who you can trust in this space, do you trust someone that does this? Like 2 months after claiming that overclocking is pointless, laughing at people that undervolt, telling people not to do it, they go and do it in their video? I mean, I think that's absolutely disgraceful. Doesn't, by the way, discuss anything to do with what he discussed only a couple of months earlier, and calling everyone within the community basically that tunes a grifter. And then does that mean he's a grifter? I saw this and it's just so incredibly ironic. And I mean, it shows you who Steve is as a person, right? That he doesn't acknowledge that he might have been wrong. He just does it. It's shocking to me. So anyway, I didn't want to let this pass. I actually didn't realize they did this. Someone within the Skool community pointed it out to me, and so I had to take a look. And it's just shocking when you see this. And I go in and try and defend the community that does this, right, in this video against their slights and calling people grifters. And by the way, you'll see in the comments to that video, Steve took a swipe directly at me, which is why I took the time to make my response video. And by the way, didn't bother to respond because obviously he's a little too scared to respond now. And it looks really bad that he went and he overclocks. But yeah, just, let him have it in the comments. He'll probably ban you if you do. But it's pretty, dual-faced, or I don't know the right, I'm trying to think. There's a word that I was looking for, but it's remarkably poor to call people names and then do exactly the same thing. It's just, this community, I'm telling you, is amazing, but some of the content creators that are in the community, not so amazing. Let's put it that way. So yeah, Hardware Unboxed, do better, right? Acknowledge that you made a mistake, acknowledge that overclocking is worthwhile, and come out and actually do that, and I would have some respect for you. I do not have respect when you do stuff like this. I think this is, underhanded, and I think it's really low integrity to do that, right? So, okay. So, let me move on to some tools, right? This is the PC software master list that is live in Skool that we have there. And basically, I get asked a lot of questions about what tool should we use to do different things. So It's split up into categories. So for memory, for stability, I love Kahoo. You can also use MemTest 86 Plus, Test Mem 5, and we have the links to them as well. For die identification, so that's trying to understand what chips you have on your memory, because that will impact what type of settings you can dial in if you want to tune all of your tertiary parameters and secondary parameters. So a great tool is called Typhoon Burner, which, by the way, I learn about from the Skool community. So I'm learning as much from them as they're learning from me, which wasn't my intention when I started the community, but it's awesome. Like, there's a lot of people in the community that are just like really know this stuff. So that was one that I wasn't aware of that I now use. Ada64 I've always been big on for benchmarking memory. If you got an Intel system, they have their own memory latency tester, which is a little bit more stable than using Ada64, which varies a little bit depending on background tasks in Windows, other things. I also have, different monitoring tools that I use. I'm a big fan of HW Monitor while I'm benchmarking, like synthetic benchmarks, other things. HW Info 64 has a lot more data. So that's one of the only tools that you can go in, for example, and see what your Infinity Fabric is running at, and make sure that you're actually running in one-to-one mode, where the UCLK equals the MCLK for AMD AM5 CPUs. That tool has all of that information. It can be very helpful because motherboards, when they're on auto, will do weird things. And so a lot of motherboards, when you're at DDR5 6400, will go to 2-to-1 mode, and that's not a good place to be for DDR5 6400. And then benchmarking, I use CapFrameX, huge fan of CapFrameX. I use a lot of the 3D Mark benchmarks. Cinebench, for example, I use Benchmate. Blender, Geekbench, Spec I use for a lot of professional CFD, CAD, AI, data science type of testing for professional workloads. Stress testing, there is a lot. I have the spreadsheet here. There's a lot more that I cover as well. So I have GPU tuning, so things like Afterburner, GPU Tweak 3, if you've got an ASUS one, EVGA Precision X1, although that's getting a bit old, NVIDIA Profile Inspector for tweaking and tuning if you've got an NVIDIA card, lossless scaling if you want to generate frame gen using a software tool as opposed to using the NVIDIA or AMD native solutions that be a part of their upscaling suite. CPU tuning I have in there, and I also have Windows, things like running Auto Run 64 or using Revo Registry Cleaner. I'm looking at the list here. Debloating using Chris Titus's Ultimate Windows utility. There's a whole bunch of other things in here. So if you're part of the Skool community, you can check that out. I wanted to bring that up because I've gotten a lot of questions, particularly lately for some reason, on what tools you should use for different things. And so, things like OCC I really like. I should add that in here as well. I just realized I didn't add that. I think I have it under stress testing, but I don't have it under memory, but it is a good memory tester too, or it's a decent memory tester, I should say. Each one of them has their advantages and disadvantages, and there's reasons why I use one and not the other. For example, Kahoo. I like Kahoo because I find that it detects errors much more rapidly than, say, MemTest 86 Plus. So I really do like Kahoo for that reason. Now, it is you do have to buy it. No, I don't benefit from recommending it. I just really like the tool. I think it's $5, something like that. That guy should, I guess he doesn't really need to because there's not a lot of competition, but he should create a affiliate link or something. I don't know, because I promote his software all the time. So I should reach out to him. I think he's some dude in India or no, it was in, not India. It's in Norway or something like that, I think. So anyway, great software. The other, let's see, we'll come back to that. So the other thing I did want to talk about is hardware tools. And so let's see, let me go back to this for a minute. I know you can see my Santa face for a minute. So I did want to talk a little bit about hardware tools. And in fact, I think that, let's see, I'll leave this up for a minute. So I've been, you've seen on the channel, I've been promoting the LTT screwdriver. This is their new it's called the Prismagic series. It's the basically see-through Prismagic series. So you have the green here, and of course you have, if you haven't seen one of these screwdrivers, I'll show you now, but you have all of your bits at the end, which is really cool. And then you have a ratcheting mechanism here, right? Which I love the sound of it. It's weird. You could probably have a channel over the sound of ratcheting screwdrivers. I know that they have like keyboard, they have channels where they have different keyboard sounds and things. Probably send you to sleep or send you crazy, one of the two. And you have this really awesome mechanism here where you can change the direction. You can kind of do that in one hand, which is really nice. So when you're using it to build with, and it's got an amazing magnetic tip too to pick things up. So this is the transparent green one. They've got the purple as well, and they have the orange, which is really cool. So LTT Store sent me 3 of them. They also have a black transparent one as well. I've been using these screwdrivers. This is the first one that I got. This is the original. I've been using these screwdrivers for a long time, since they first came out. They are outstanding screwdrivers. This is the one I've used a lot in all of my builds. If you see any of my build videos, this will be in there. All the bits that you can get for it. So the reason that I was happy to promote this on my channel is because it's something I actually use. So I won't promote anything on my channel that I don't use and I don't believe in. I actually genuinely believe in this screwdriver. It's fantastic. I'm not a fan of electric screwdrivers. I just don't feel they have the touch, and I like to feel the pushing in the screw and how much force I use, particularly when you're putting in like a CPU, CPU plates, AIOs, that type of thing. It's important not to over tighten those, and so I just don't trust electric screwdrivers. I also bought this little stubby one because when you've got space limited applications as well, you can buy like the extender let's see, shaft for the screwdrivers, which I did. You can also buy a whole bunch more different end bits too. Like I have the Torx ones here, and different size Phillips head and screwdrivers and other things. And then the other thing that I got, which I love, is their toolkit, right? The small screwdriver. This one I use a lot as well. So sometimes when you're talking about little screws, small screws, things like, although SSDs tend not to have them anymore, the M.2 SSDs, but that size screw, it's not great for a larger screwdriver. You want something with a little bit more touch. And so I absolutely love this too. So that's my favorite tool that I use, at least suite of tools in terms of screwdrivers. I highly recommend checking it out. The other thing I use a lot is an air blower duster. I used to use the compressed air, but that's such a waste of money. You should just get one of these now, the electric ones. You charge them with USB. These little ones, I had a larger one, but I just got this. I don't know what brand it is. It's Rosewill. But it doesn't really matter what brand it is. I got it from Amazon. It's pretty awesome. I use this all the time. I mean, like constantly, because you want to make sure that when you're putting a CPU in and putting the AIO in, that you haven't got dust sitting over top of it. If you do a little spill of like alcohol that you're cleaning up or something, you can dry it out with this. It's pretty awesome. I use this all the time. So that's kind of a huge favorite of mine. The other favorite one I use is a headlight, right? Like a headlamp. This is the one I use. I've had this for a long time. You can pick these up on Amazon too. It doesn't really matter what brand it is. But when you're building in a case, you will virtually always, and I have a very well lit up test bench behind me just because I film on it, but you will virtually always create some kind of shadow, particularly when your head's over and you're looking down into the case. Having that light is a lifesaver, particularly when you lose a screw and then you use your screwdriver with the magnetic tip to kind of grab the screw, but you have to figure out where it is. And you've got to be able to see well. Like that's absolutely critical. And then one other thing I use a lot that I really like is cleaning wipes. I bought some cleaning wipes one time, and for some reason, they absolutely stunk. I'm trying to remember I think it was Arctic, and I used them, and like my whole office stunk for days. So don't get those. The Thermal Grizzly ones are pretty amazing. So it's a 3-step process. They have a clear and a finish. Basically, these are just not wet wipes, and then this side is a wet wipe. It's 2 wet wipes. I use these for cleaning CPUs or other things that I need to get a nice surface finish on, like GPUs, that type of thing. These are great. You can buy those off Amazon or directly from Thermal Grizzly as well. And then the last hardware tool that I wanted to cover is a PSU tester. It's the Thermaltake PSU tester. It looks like this. It's called Dr. Power 3. You can pick it up off Amazon for $40. It's really cool. So you can test your main connection to the motherboard, main power. You've got a 12-volt high power connection on the side, and you've got your 8-pin, you've got your power, and you've got your PCIe, and then also other connections as well. So you've got Molex and SATA. So you can test everything and make sure that your power supply is doing the right thing. If you're uncertain, one of the worst things you can do is use an old power supply that you're not convinced is delivering good quality power. So Ripple and other things are very important for power supplies. It's not just, is it providing, the right power? It's, is it providing good quality power in terms of the frequency that it provides it at? This is a great power supply tester. There's a lot more expensive ones out there, but this was also one of the only ones that I found that has a native 12-volt high power cable support. So I use this. I think it's awesome. I've got a lot more tools, but they're the ones that, honestly, if you're going to be building a PC, the 3 top ones are the headlight, right? Like you need a light, the blower to blow air, and the screwdriver. Like that's it. I mean, if you have those, by the way, the one that I thought was going to be the nicest was the green, and for some reason I like the orange one the best. I really do think that the orange one is a beautiful looking screwdriver. I haven't seen the black one in person. I already had this black one, so I didn't want another black one. But I think that this is the nicest of the screwdrivers that I like in person. So just if you're interested. But that's my selection of hardware tools that I think are absolutely vital. There's a lot more other things you can get. Zip ties, you need to get a tool to cut the zip ties. I think that's important. So I have actually right over, I always get confused here. Right here, I have, drawers of tools and things that I use when I'm building. For example, I was building this test stand right behind me here. And that test stand is going to be for the 5090 Matrix Platinum that I was able to pick up. The challenge with this, so these are the open bench table V2 test stands that I use. That I think they're fantastic, super compact, really good quality. Unfortunately for that GPU, I need to use the BTF connector, so I need a BTF board, and so I'm using the Z890 BTF board. Not ideal when you're putting it on a test stand because it doesn't have the cutouts in the right place. So what I was building it over the weekend, or actually a few days ago, and I realized that I didn't have the right cutouts, and so I couldn't mount it properly. So then I had to go to Amazon. I had to buy basically extension cables or 90-degree angled cables so that I can connect everything to the back of the case, to the back of the motherboard, which is not ideal for a test stand. So that's what I'm building. I'm sorry, where is it? Here. Yeah, there we go. It's always reverse, right? So that's what I'm building here. So I'm on pause at the moment. That's why it's really nice having a whole bunch of like spare components in these drawers so that when you're building, you're not stuck for a couple of days, from ordering from Amazon. Now, back in the day, you weren't stuck for a couple of days. You probably go to, a store and pick up the components you needed. But sometimes you're in trouble and stuck for a while. You couldn't just order it and have it there in a couple of days. So we are very fortunate to be, kind of in the world we're in at the moment, right? Even with RAM prices and other things, we're very, very fortunate that we can just build, and if we've got a problem, you get the part the next day or 2 days later. It's pretty cool. So that test stand I'll continue over the weekend. That video, by the way, won't be out until after CES at this point because I'm going to try and break some records with the GPU. So that'll take a little bit of testing. I think it'll make for a pretty interesting video. So will be really fun. I'm going to be comparing it to an Astral and an FE as well. Okay, let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, okay. I'll talk about CES and then we'll do the giveaways and the secret giveaway. Actually, you know what? I might do do the details for the secret giveaway now, since we've got a bunch of people here, and before we move on. So I mentioned that the screwdriver is my favorite tool, right? So the LTT screwdriver, a whole bunch of cool features. You know, you store the parts, you store the bits at the end, magnetic tip, you've got the ratcheting mechanism, super comfortable in your hand, like really awesome screwdriver. So as a surprise giveaway, and it's only going to be, and I'll explain it in a moment for just the people participating right now in chat. So if you want to participate, join chat, and you'll be entered in here. What I'm going to do is give away this screwdriver, which is the yellow version of the LTT screwdriver. Has the silver shaft, has all the bits at the end. So I purchased this myself. I'm going to give this away today, actually in like 20 minutes or so. In order to win this is what I need you to do. In the video, it went for 1.5 minutes that I made on the LTT screwdriver, the new Prismagic series transparent screwdrivers. I mentioned 3 things that I love about this screwdriver. So what you need to do is you need to put in chat what my favorite feature of this screwdriver is, and it's the 3rd one to help you, right? I list 3 things that I absolutely love, 3 features of this screwdriver, and I've mentioned it a bunch through the video today. You need to be able to put into chat what that is. What's the 3rd? What's my favorite feature? And so the short is on my channel. I will even give you the link right now. Let's see. I'll put the link in chat so that if you haven't watched it, you can take a quick look at it. But that's how you enter. So I'll do that drawing after we've talked about CES. Let's see. It was a short that I did. Here it is. I will put it here. All right. Here we go. That's the short. And so, and I'm not going to tell you whether your answers are right or wrong until I do the drawing. But yeah, and it's, by the way, first answer only, first answer. All right, so you can't answer like 50 times and then obviously get it right. But you know, honestly, I really don't mind. But anyway, so that's the giveaway. Where is it? It's here. Okay, so that's the giveaway. All right. Okay, so now I've never tried this before, so this was kind of last minute idea of something fun to do since it's the day after Christmas. I want to give back to the community. So let's see. Okay, CES. I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about for CES. It's coming up January 6th to 9th. Oh, that's very soon. It's really 5th to 9th. I don't know why they say 6th to 9th. Anyway, I'm flying in on the 5th, so I will be meeting with NVIDIA, ASUS, and MSI on the 6th, and so I'll put some content up for that. I'll probably put some unedited content on Skool, and I'll make some shorts for the channel as well. I'll do that Tuesday night, so it's going to be a long day, late night, and then I'm meeting with a whole range of other people after that. So I thought I would talk about some of the things that I think we should expect to see from from the big 3, AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA. So first, from AMD, I don't think they'll have any GPU related announcements. That's my prediction. Again, this is my prediction. Could be wrong. I'll justify that in a moment. But I just don't see them spending the time and energy developing a product to supplement the 9070 XT. I think they're somewhat happy with that product. So I just don't see them doing that. They have announced, well, they haven't officially announced, but there's rumors about this. I do believe that the 9850 X3D and 9950 X3D2 will be announced at CES. I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out, but I think 2 new CPUs. I think they're going to be expensive. I think they're going to cash in on the X3D branding, and I don't blame them for that. I think that's what NVIDIA and Intel would do, but those chips are going to be expensive, and I'm going to have to test them to see if it's worth it, to see if they're worth the premium. I don't think they're going to be worth the premium for gaming. That's just my 2 cents, but we'll wait and see. Intel is also going to announce a refresh of the 200S series called the 200K Plus. So Arrow Lake refresh in the existing socket 1851. I believe these will be announced at CES too. So, which to me is pretty cool, because now I'll be able to go buy them whenever they're available, test them and compare them. And so that should be pretty cool. I think for Intel, it's a bigger deal than AMD. The reason I say that is that for Intel, they got absolutely slaughtered when they launched Arrow Lake, and now they have a mature firmware. I think that the stock performance of these chips is going to be significantly better than the stock performance of the existing chips. I do not believe that the tuned performance will be much better. So if you follow the channel and you follow the guides and you've tuned your CPU, I really don't think this is going to be kind of anything meaningful, particularly in gaming. However, I need to test them. So that's another prediction that I have. Again, I don't think anyone would think that these predictions are overly brilliant, right? I do think that Intel will announce the B770, so the Battle Mage series, Intel Arc Battle Mage, the better version of the graphics card than the B580 that was announced. So I made a prediction, so I do believe that they're going to do that. I made a prediction of the performance of the B770, and basically what I did is that I based it on the performance of the B5. So I have an A770, I have an A570 or 580, whatever it's called, and I have an A580, a B770, and a B580. So you can basically interpolate or extrapolate the results, right? I should say extrapolate because it's an unknown. I'm very confident in this approach. So if you do that, and you can look at the video, I do this in my B580 video, so you can see all the details, how I did it. But basically, what I predict is that the B770 is going to be basically the same as a 5060 Ti 16 gig card. That's what I think. So, it's a little faster than a 4060 Ti. It's a lot slower than a 4070 Super, which means it's going to be a lot slower than a 5070. So it's somewhat disappointing. I wish it competed with the 5070. I think that would be really cool. I don't think it will be. I feel very confident in these results, by the way. And so you can also see, what happened here? You can also see this was the average FPS, and this was the 1% lowest. That's the only difference here. So again, similar kind of numbers here, but let's see. So when it comes out, I'm going to test it against the 5060 Ti 16 gig. I haven't tested that card yet, and I'll test it against the AMD 9060 XT as well, the 16 gig version, and we'll see how it performs. I'll also throw in the 8 gig versions to test as well. But I'm pretty confident that's what you're going to see. So you should see pricing that's close to those cards as well. But it'll be great to have it. Like I don't know why it took Intel so long. Well, I do know. They decided to cancel it, is what I understand, and just go with the B580, and then go to the what's next? Celestial. Go to Celestial, and then because the B580 did so well, they decided why not do it for the B770 as well. So why not release it? Because last year at CES, we specifically asked them, is the B770 being released? And they said no. So, and that could have just been they were marketing people that didn't know what they were talking about. But I do expect it this year. So the big question is, what is NVIDIA going to do? This one is the one where it takes a little bit of crystal balling. And so my prediction is no new hardware from NVIDIA, at least no new gaming GPUs from NVIDIA. I do not believe they're announcing the Super Series. The reasoning is that I think it would be absolutely ridiculous to announce a Super Series with more VRAM in the current market conditions. I think that would be completely tone deaf, and I just don't think it would make much sense. I really don't think it could make much sense. Unless for some reason these 3 gigabyte chips weren't being used for AI, but I just don't, it doesn't make sense. Nvidia already has a dominant market position. They don't need to introduce a super series. And someone on another channel had said something about, well, they could introduce a super series without extra VRAM just because they want to justify increasing the price of the cards. It's Nvidia. They can just increase the price of the cards. Since when do they have to justify it? Like, they don't have to justify it to us. They'll just increase the price of the cards and blame it on memory. I could see them doing that. And the only reason that they wouldn't be supplying VRAM to their partners moving forward is if they were having trouble sourcing and doing it for their workload or their partners that they're working with in AI and other areas as well. So I don't see them doing this. I just don't think there's a need. So that doesn't mean they're not going to announce anything. What I think they're going to go full on and announce are two things. I think they're going to announce DLSS 4.5. I'm just saying 4.5 because I don't think it's going to be DLSS 5. Typically, they save the new versions of DLSS for a new generation of cards. So since they're not announcing a 60 series, I think what we're going to get is improvements in DLSS 4, and it's going to be DLSS 4.5, and it's going to set a new standard in terms of upscaling. It's going to be even better than what it is now. It's already very good, and probably some newer form of frame gen as well. But I think that's what they're going to focus on. And what would be really cool is if they did that not just for 50 series, but at least for 50 series they'll do that. It'd be interesting if they opened up multi-frame gen for 40 series and below as well, or at least 40 series. So that would be cool. The other thing I feel reasonably confident that they're going to talk about is this. Their new tech called RTX Neural Texture Compression that reduces VRAM usage. This would be an outstanding time to introduce this technology into graphics cards, particularly if the rumors are true. They're going to get rid of the 16 gig version of the 5060 Ti, and AMD is going to get rid of the 16 gig version of the 9060 XT. It'd be a great time to introduce software that significantly reduces your VRAM needs. And by the way, this is something that I often push back on people when they say, I need 20 gigabytes of VRAM. You don't, right? And this technology is going to do that, is going to help you with that even more, at least in gaming. They've shown in this video here, if you follow these links, that it's compressing the image without loss of around 90+%. Now there is a performance cost. So, but you would pay that if it brings down your VRAM usage, if you're VRAM limited. So this is going to be very interesting. They on one of their technical blogs, they'd been talking about it, introduces next era of AI-powered graphics innovation. So I think what we're going to see from NVIDIA is a huge push on their AI software that supports their GPUs in the marketplace that exist already. And I do not believe we're going to hear a single thing about the Super Series. It's just my prediction. I could be completely wrong, and the good news is that I went out and stuck my neck out and did this on camera, so you can come back and tell me, hey loser, you made a mistake, right? So feel free to do that. I do feel confident though that that they're not going to announce. They're not going to announce. They can't possibly. I can't see how they could announce GPUs with more VRAM. It just doesn't make sense. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so they're my predictions. So now let me. I'll catch up on. I'll catch up on chat in a moment. But let me just see what we're looking at in terms of, let me see what we're looking at in terms of, all right, let me see what we're looking at. Okay. All right, so we have 32. Let's take a look. So for the RAM giveaway, let me do the drawing really quick here. And let me do this. What? I always, yeah, there we go. Okay. So why isn't it hiding my bookmarks bar? Oh, that's weird. All right. Okay. So it's called random number generator, and I'll bring this up on screen so you can see it. All right, that's it. And let's see. You'll do browser. There we go. All right. Let's try this. Okay, so this is a random number generator, and we're going to put in 1 to 32. And so this is for, let me just say it again, the DDR5 6400 CL32, I think, CL32. So it's timings are CL32, 39, 39, 1.4 volts, 32 gigabyte, 2x16 kit, right? So, and I've tested this, it works, it's fine. And it's the black and silver one, I think. Let me take a quick look. So from Kingston, yeah, well, it doesn't look like the cover. So it's just black, right? It's straight up black. It's RGB, has the it's Fury Beast. I don't know why this is in a, I don't know why it's in a Renegade box, but whatever. It is the right box. Let me just make sure it's the right RAM. That would be good. Yeah, it doesn't. So most RAM typically has timings on it. This one doesn't. It just has. I need to make sure that this is the right kit. I may not have the right kit in here. So here's me saying that I'm giving away this and it doesn't look like the box. So this may be different RAM. So let me select the winner, and then if it's not the right RAM, I will try and find where it is. But let's do this. All right. The winner is 15. So I will not do that live on screen. I need to go into my the Skool community and count this up. Let's see. So oh no. 1, 2. At least it's not going to be the same winner. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It is Dakota Baker. So congrats, buddy. Dakota, you're been a very, very engaged member of Skool. I really appreciate you being part of it. But congrats, Dakota. I'm not sure if you're on at the moment, but congrats. So I will verify what's going on with this RAM. It may not actually be what's on the box. So I'm glad I checked that. But you're the winner. So the other thing I was going to give away is the case. So let me now make sure of who's participating in this giveaway. I think there are only a few people participating in this giveaway, and the reason is that, again, the cost of shipping a case. So we're only got 4 members that wanted to participate in this. So it's going to be, I'm going to do it based on this that I've got open. So I'm going to change this to 4. So good luck, everyone. 2. So it's William Pope. Congrats, buddy. Congrats on winning the MSI case. We're going to figure out the details. But congrats. It's a really beautiful case. I really do like the look of it. It's got that kind of sharp edge. It looks kind of like helicopters, like that military kind of look and feel to it that I quite like, since I used to design helicopters, which is really cool. And now I'm going to do the screwdriver giveaway. Let's see. So I've got to go. So the answer was magnetic tip, right? So many of you got that, right? So let's see. 1, so COTS, pacify. So 2, 3, 4, Let's see. I'm not giving away the swords. Nice try, RJ. I'm not giving away those. Let's see. 6, 7. You're not all wrong, Jesus. So let's see. 8. I think that's it. I think that's 8. All right, so let's do 8. 7. Oh man, it couldn't have just been 1. It'd be very easy. All right, let me do. So cut, specify. So that's 2, 3. Tony is 4. Jesus is 5. 6, 7. Taras, congrats, buddy. You are the winner of the screwdriver. Congrats. So you're the winner of this. We will figure out how to get this to you. And since you're a Skool member, it should be pretty easy because I can just chat with you in Skool, get your address, and then send this out to you. So this one's not going to cost much. I'll just send it out to you. But congrats. So thanks for participating in that, everyone. Time for the secret 8 terabyte Gen 5 SSD giveaway. So Jesse, I'm assuming you're giving that away because I'm not. So I think that is a brilliant thing to give to the community. Thank you so much for recommending that. But no, very, very cool. So let me catch up a little bit on chat, and actually not doing too bad on timing. So a little bit over an hour. Let's see. Okay. Yep. So Dakota won that. So that's cool. Yeah, it's prime RAM. I know it's a little crazy. It looks like RAM is leveled off a little bit, which is good. And so I think it will level off a little bit more. And by the way, there was a really good, I think it was Scott brought up that there was an article out there that ASUS is considering getting into the RAM game and basically doing what Corsair does, which is getting the RAM and slapping the ASUS cooler, or their design for the cooling solution for the RAM on, and selling that. That's great, and it's good news for us. However, I don't think that's the bottleneck. The bottleneck are the IC producers, the manufacturers, the Microns, Samsung, SK Hynix of the world. That isn't going to solve that. So I think it's good news, but I don't think it's really going to solve it for us, right? You really need the manufacturers to ramp up production. That's how you solve this, I think, right? Cotstots said 9070 XT has pushed the limits. Absolutely. I looked into predicting the performance of a 9080 XT, and it just doesn't make sense in terms of power draw. It would need 600 watts to basically try to compete and get better performance than a 5080, and I just don't see AMD doing that, right? Okay, let's see. Tony's gonna sell. I got to catch up on this. Why he's yeah. You're itching for a 5090 Matrix Platinum. Yeah, it probably is the cost of a Subaru. Yeah, I am itching to test it. I really am. But I tend to be patient enough to set it up the right way. What I don't want to do is test it and screw something up. I'm gonna ask ASUS at CES if I can get a copy of that XOC BIOS, the V BIOS, so that I can flash one of the switches, the quiet BIOS, whatever it is on the card, so that I can push even more power through it. I think that'll be fun. I got to be careful not to destroy the card, but it should be interesting. Hopefully I can get that. I want to get the official version because it is an expensive card. What I'm not doing is pulling the card apart. I am not. It's too expensive in a card for me to do that. Let's see. Talking about Fantic is a good brand. I completely agree. One thing I didn't bring out, which I have, they make this really cool Dremel-like tool that I did recently purchase. I haven't used it yet, but it does look like a much simpler tool to use than the Dremel that I have kind of downstairs in my outside-ish area or in the garage. So they really do make great stuff. So they're a good brand to check out on Amazon. Tough Guy Harrison got the brown and cream Noctua one. Oh yeah, I really do like their Noctua designs. They're cool. I'm using a Noctua. I'm using the Noctua PSU, the 1600 watt PSU that they partnered with Seasonic on. So I'm using that in this test stand. That's actually the cable pack for it there. It is, I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the test stand mounted already. That's a big power supply. I thought since that card can pull 800 watts, I thought using a 1600 watt power supply was a good idea. Let's see. Yep, some comments about the about hardware unboxed. That was interesting. RJ bought the shirt. Yeah, and so one thing I realized with the shirts from the store. So this is this is one. It has the logo and it has that on the back, right? Which is pretty cool. I wore this at CES last year. I ordered new t-shirts, and so because of tariffs and other things, I think they've changed who they're buying the t-shirts from, and I actually think the material is better quality now. So so that's good. I'm assuming they had to switch up who they sourced it from. So that's pretty cool. I think that's basically it. If you got any questions, let me know. Yes, Jesse, I just talked about ASUS making their own RAM. Again, it's good news for us. There's no question. And not just that, if you're an ASUS fan, like having ASUS branded RAM will look pretty cool inside your case. And no doubt they're going to do a really cool design and maybe like put a fan on it and other things. So I'm looking forward to it from an enthusiast perspective. Will it really help with the RAM crunch? I don't know. I mean, it can't hurt, right? In the sense that Corsair has really jacked up the prices of their RAM more than they needed to. Let's be honest. So if you go to Corsair's website, their RAM, particularly the titanium versions, are insanely priced. So having a competitor that's good quality like that Corsair RAM is a good thing. But again, the supply isn't going to be solved. So that's interesting, right? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting him. Sorry about that. I realize my microphone's pretty sensitive. I dropped the screwdriver on the table. It's all right. I'm giving the screwdriver away, so I can. No, I'm kidding. It's in good shape, so don't worry about that. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to going. No, Tots. ASUS isn't going to need their own fabs foundry. They're not setting up a fabrication or a foundry to produce RAM. There's no way they are going to do that. Now, if they did, that would actually help. So I agree. There's no way they're doing that. That would take a year to set up. They're talking about doing this in like 6 months' time. So they're getting their supply from one of the big three. That's what they're going to do. Oh, that's helpful. Lil Jesse said, I think ASUS put out a statement that they're not going to get into the RAM game on X today. Well, that's interesting. I would love them to. So we're going to ask them at CES anyway. It's coming up very soon. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover at CES, let me know. I have meetings with LG. I have meetings with ASUS, MSI, Gigabyte. I have meetings with NVIDIA. I don't have meetings set up with AMD and Intel yet. I don't have great contacts there. So I'm going to turn up and talk to them and see what they have. I'm working on getting better contacts there because what sucks when they launch a product is I'm sitting there in line with all of you on launch day, clicking the button, trying to, buy one so that I can test it. It would be helpful not to have to do that. Even if I could buy and get some kind of priority and buy it myself. I don't have to get sent a sample, but it would be helpful if they sent me a sample. As long as they know that I'm not going to sugarcoat it and just tell the truth, which I will be clear to them about. I'm meeting with LG and Samsung. I'm meeting with some of the case manufacturers. I'm meeting with some of the. I'm also going to meet with Main Gear and a bunch of those companies as well. So I'm gonna try and see as much as I can. There's a couple of new memory manufacturers out there. Again, they're not the prime memory manufacturers. These are people that are putting their own cooler on the ICs. So Bywin, and there was another one that I'm meeting with as well. So I've got meetings with them. I'm meeting with Thermal Grizzly, so that should be interesting. So they don't have a display, but they're coming in, and so I reached out to them, and I'm going to meet with them. So that'll be interesting. I think they're a great company. I use a lot of their products, so I really like that. So yeah, if I could, partner with him in some way or collaborate, I'd be happy to do that. So lots of cool stuff coming up. I'm super excited about it. Working on the next video, don't forget. So the next video is really going to be about, is DDR4 still viable in today's market? That's really what it's going to be. I'll cover, focus is on AMD, but I'm covering Intel in it as well. And I'm also going to be covering X3D, non-X3D. So that'll be interesting. The X3D is the 5800 X3D versus the 78 and 9800 X3D. So I'll cover that in there. So I've got to work that the next couple of days. So that'll be next Friday. And then won't have a video during CES, but I'll have I'm going to do a bunch of shorts and just kind of get them out while I'm there. That's the benefit of shorts, is I don't have to go into a long production cycle for a long video. And so while I'm there, I'll do a live with the Skool community while I'm there, so that if you're part of the Blackbird army, we can jump on a call. I might even do the live walking around. I don't know. That's kind of dorky. I don't know. That would be pretty cool. I have to think of the logistics of that and what camera I would use. Anyway, I got to think about that. But I'll definitely do a live. I'll probably do it from the show. I might see if ask ASUS or MSI or someone if I can do it live from their booth, so you can I can show you things while we're there. I'll do it from my laptop and just walk around with my laptop. So that'll be fun. And yeah, if anything else pops up, ask me on the channel or in Skool. If there's something specific you want me to take a look at, I'm happy to do that. There's way too much to cover while I'm there. And I'm also an enthusiast and just get excited by this stuff. And so for me, it's remembering that I got to film it. I'll start talking with JJ or something from ASUS, and I'll be like, this is awesome, and an hour goes by and I'm like, crap, I didn't film any of it. So that's the problem of actually really loving this stuff, is that you get into situations like that. But anyway, thank you so much for being a part of the stream today, for participating. Congratulations for those that won. So it was Dakota, it was William, and it was Taras too, right? So congratulations to all of you. I'll reach out to you in Skool, but to figure out what we're going to do there, and then I will, let's see, and there will be additional, I've got some other giveaways coming up in the future. And I'm also going to partner with some companies as well to do some really cool giveaways, I'm hoping, in the near future. So lots of cool things in store for the channel next year as we continue to grow and influence the broader community. You can see that Harbor Unboxed looked at one of my tuning videos and figured out how to tune, which was good to see. But anyway, thank you so much. Hope you had a great holiday. If you celebrate Christmas, hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you're able to relax a little bit today and over the weekend before you potentially have to go back to work. Or if you're taking extended time off, have a great holiday. Have a great new year if I don't see you before then, which I probably won't, since New Year is next year. And I'm looking forward to catching up with all of you during CES and looking at all the cool tech there and seeing if I can distract them while I grab a GPU off the shelf, right? So we'll see. But thank you all so very much. I appreciate this community. I really do.